Do you have a good size hole in your drywall, but you're not quite sure how to fix it? So do I, and I'll show you how I fix it. Now, before you begin repairing holes like this, there's one detail that you have to know, and that is when you have an impact hole like this on your drywall, the damage on the back side of the drywall is always significantly worse than on the front side. If you look at the back of the wall, which you won't be able to do on your wall, you see that the damage is a good 1.5 to 2 inches wider than the hole appears on the front side of the drywall. So you need to cut a bigger hole to ensure that you're properly repairing this section of drywall. I like to use a pencil to draw a rough outline of the hole that I need to cut in order to patch the drywall. I go a good 1.5 to 2 inches away from the edge of the damage that I see on the front side of the wall to ensure that I'm correcting what's done on the back side of the wall. Now, it's important to keep this in a square, a rectangle, or a circle, some sort of easy shape that you can replicate with spare drywall. Now that that's done, you can cut the shape out of the drywall. Some people will just use a razor knife, a utility knife to do so. My choice is the drywall saw. It has teeth that go through the drywall very easily, enabling you to cut out very specific and accurate shapes. This is my preference. Choose your weapon. For this next step, you're gonna need a spare piece of drywall. I go to Lowe's and buy these squares that you get. They're not super expensive, and I usually keep a couple around the house just in case something like this happens. But it's tough to work with even a square that's this size. So first, cut it down to a little bit of a smaller size that is at least a good 3 to 4 inches bigger than the hole that you have all the way around. Now take your spare piece of drywall and put it up against the hole that you've cut in the wall. Place one edge of it about 1.5 inches off the side of the hole that you cut, and about 1.5 inches on the opposite side. Make a mark with your knife and then cut that section out. Put the leftover section back up against the hole. Take the top piece, put it about 1.5 inches above the top of the hole that you've cut in, and about 1.5 inches below the bottom of the hole that you've cut. Mark another line here and cut that section out of your spare piece of drywall. Flip it over so that the brown side of the paper faces you. Now you want to repeat that exact same process we did where we went to the outside of the hole, but this time we're going to the inside of the hole. Put your scrap drywall up against the hole with that 1.5 inches hanging off each side. Now at the 1/4 inch mark, ballpark, inside the hole, make a mark with your knife. Cut all the way down the length of your drywall, and now you're going to break that section off gently and peel it away so that all that you see is the back side of the paper that's on the front side of your scrap drywall piece. Do this on your other side. Now put your piece of drywall with the 2 wings hanging out on either side back up against your hole with the other pieces 1.5 inches off of the top and the bottom, and do the exact same thing. Make a mark that's about 1/4 inch inside the hole on the top, same on the bottom, and then cut across and do the same thing. Gently break off the drywall so that you have that extra flap hanging on the outside of the front side paper of your drywall. When you're done, you're gonna end up with something that looks like this. Wings all over each side, but you've got your paper, your finishing paper on the outside. This is what's called a California patch, and it's called that because, well, I actually have no idea why it's called that. It's just called a California patch. But when you take this patch and put it up against your hole now, it will fit inside with a little bit of wiggle room, and the flaps go all the way around the exterior of your hole. Grab your 4-inch knife and work your way around the hole, just putting a nice coat all the way around. If you want to put a little extra mud on the inside of the hole, just take your knife and put a little bit on the inside edges of the hole in the drywall. Grab your patch and put it along the inside edges as well. This will ensure that when you get the patch in the hole, it will fill the gaps between what you've created and the drywall that is there right now. Now gently place your patch into the wall. Don't push on the center of the patch. You want to push on the outside edges. With your 4-inch knife, work from the inside out and start to remove the excess mud. The purpose here is to ensure that you have enough in there for it to adhere against the wall, but you don't want to have any bubbles pop out from the backside of that tape. Make sure you don't push too hard to take all of the mud out, otherwise those flaps are not going to adhere around the patch. If you find that your patch is sticking out of the wall a little bit, use the blade of your knife against the corners of the drywall just to gently push it in so it stays flush. Now, once you get to this point where your patch is in the wall, let it dry, and this is gonna take a long while to dry. It might take a day, maybe two, depending upon how much mud is in that hole and how big of a hole you have. But since I'm making this video for you, I'm skipping the dry time and I'm moving on to the next step. For this next step, you wanna grab like a 6 or an 8-inch drywall knife if you have a large hole. If you still have a small hole that you've used the California patch on, you can stick with your 4-inch knife and you'll be just fine. With that larger knife, take your mud and work it around. You really just want to have as smooth of a surface as you can when you're done, all the way around the edge, and you don't want to see any portions of your patch once that second coat is on. For me, it was a little bit wonky because my patch was moving since it is completely freshly wet. But if you let yours dry, that second coat is going to go on a heck of a lot easier. Once that second coat dries, give it a light sanding. Get rid of any drag marks that your knife might have left in the mud or any other imperfections that are there before you prime and paint. Until the next time, keep doing it yourself.